Welcome to Chart Talk Training Module Configuration 2, Practice Configuration. In this module, we will be going through the settings in the submenu items under Practice Management. We're going to configure settings for billing, among other things. We will go over setting up payers, clinic locations, configuring group settings, details for your secure electronic claim submissions to your clearinghouse, adding and editing billing codes, setting a clinic tax rate, adding or editing modifiers, and we'll look at the print settings. Topics that will be covered in other training modules are using and adding information to the media types, medication library, and the employers and attorneys tables. If this video is slightly different than what you see when you log into Chart Talk regarding any of these screens, please refer to manual.mycharttalk.com for the most up-to-date definitions. To start off, let's take a look at payers. When setting up payers, there are two types of classifications in Chart Talk: insured and non-insured. The difference, simply put, is how you submit claims to the payers. If the payer takes claims in the form of electronic EDI files or printed on the CMS 1500 form, then the payer should be payer type insured. If the payer receives claims on a statement, or if charges should be set to patient responsibility immediately, then the payer type should be non-insured. Non-insured also includes patients that are classified as cash. In your first personal training, we go over setting up a non-insured type payer called cash. After you create an insured type payer, you need to set up the payer details. Enter the name and address of the payer. The clearinghouse field will have a drop-down list selection for which clearinghouse to submit claims to for this payer. The payer number here will be the identification number your clearinghouse uses for this specific payer. Every clearinghouse has its own set of identifying codes for payers, so make sure you are familiar with the tools your clearinghouse has in place to look up those identification numbers. The boxes at the bottom help configure specific details regarding your electronic and paper claims. I'll refer you to our Coach's Corner video titled Building the 1500, which can be found on our YouTube channel, on a how-to page in our online manual, and at mycharttalk.com. Locations is the addresses of all of your offices. For details on how the locations are used on the CMS 1500 and reports forms, please see Chart Talk's online manual. Practice Group holds the details of your group NPI number. In User Setup, you can associate each provider with their appropriate group. This number will not override the rendering provider NPI when claims are created. Interchange qualifier is 30 when U.S. federal tax ID numbers are used. The clearinghouse screen holds information for the FTP connection and directory layout for where you submit electronic claims. Your clearinghouse will usually help set this up for you, but here is an overview of the fields. Name is completely arbitrary, but make sure you can recognize it when you are setting up your payers. Sender and receiver ID. This will be unique to your clearinghouse, and they will supply you with this information. Interchange qualifier. 99% of the time, you are using a federal tax ID number, so set this to 30. FTP user ID and password. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. ChartTalk uses SFTP, that's Secure File Transfer Protocol, to encrypt the information submitted from our servers to your clearinghouse, because you can never be too careful with protected health information. Billing codes allows you to set up and edit codes for diagnosis, procedures, services, durable medical goods, and anything you bill or use to track and identify about patients. You'll recognize some code types, and others will seem very foreign. Getting into LOINC or SNOMED coding is beyond the scope of this video, so let's just focus on editing existing codes. Code. This is the actual code. Do not include modifiers when setting this up. Those need to be added separately so they can appear on your claims correctly. Description. This text is longer than the code and will show up in the diagnosis tables to help you identify the code. Code type. This could be ICD-9, ICD-10, G-code, CPT. These are all codes you are probably familiar with using every day. Other coding systems like LOINC and SNOMED are built to help demonstrate quality measures. Charge. If a payment should be associated with a code, enter the base dollar amount here. Do not bill. If you are entering a code for a supplement or office code that should never be sent on a claim, checking this box ensures that when completing a visit, the charge is automatically assigned as patient responsibility and will never appear on a 1500 or in an electronic claim. Is taxable. If tax should be added on when calculating the total patient responsibility, the tax rate is taken from the next screen. Clinic. Clinic name should be what you have on your letterhead or the sign in front of your building. If you've got more than one business alias, you can use location aliases to override this value in some reports. Business name. For ChartTalk use only, you are not able to edit this value. City. A value set up during configuration. You won't have access to edit this value either. And then tax rate will be used when processing that charges that have been marked is taxable. On the modifier screen, there are just two fields, code and description. This entire table is available when entering charges into a visit record to modify the charge associated with the visit. Finally, print settings. Make sure to check manual.mycharttalk.com for the latest information about print settings. Print settings control various aspects of how reports and other documents are rendered by ChartTalk. We've gone over a lot today, all of which is part of our onboarding training. The screens discussed today can be found at manual.mycharttalk.com. There, we have screen definitions and many pages devoted to performing specific actions. This is the end of ChartTalk Training Configuration Module 2, Practice Configuration.